I wasn't in the ad
Right.
because of Jay-Z and them was putting it together. So I think they still harbor some energy towards me.
You think you were purposely left out of the ad?
People think hip-hop beef is loud. They think it's about shouting on records, viral interviews, and diss tracks that explode on social media, but the most dangerous beefs are never loud. They happen quietly. They happen when nobody is watching. And they are decided not by lyrics, but by power. This is not a story about a diss track. This is a story about influence, about silence, about a warning that didn't come through a microphone, but allegedly came at the gates of a mansion. According to 50 Cent, this is the moment he understood that Jay-Z doesn't fight wars with words. He fights them by controlling the room. And once you hear this story, you'll never look at hip-hop beef the same way again. Imagine being a young rapper with nothing to lose, finally getting attention from the biggest names in the industry. Imagine thinking you're winning, only to realize the game isn't being played where you're looking, because while you're talking, someone else is moving pieces, quietly. According to 50 Cent, that's exactly what happened. And it didn't end with a song, it didn't end with an argument. It ended with a message that said everything without saying much at all. Stop talking. To understand how it reached that point, we have to go back to 1999, before billion-dollar deals, before Roc Nation, before G-Unit became a global brand. Curtis Jackson was just another hungry rapper from South Jamaica, Queens. He was broke, unknown, and tired of being ignored. In New York, if nobody notices you, you don't exist. Curtis knew that talent alone wasn't enough. He needed attention, and he was willing to risk everything to get it. That's when he recorded a song that would change his life forever. The track was called How to Rob. It wasn't motivational, it wasn't inspirational, it was disrespectful on purpose. In the song, 50 Cent jokingly rapped about robbing almost every major rapper in the industry: DMX, Big Pun, Wu-Tang Clan, and then he mentioned Jay-Z. It sounded playful, but in hip-hop, perception is reality, and this didn't feel playful to everyone. The song spread fast, people laughed, people gasped, industry executives paid attention.
We are in the same business. We are not necessarily friends.
Because in New York hip-hop, respect is everything. And with one song, Curtis Jackson challenged the entire establishment. He wasn't asking for permission, he was kicking the door open. Jay-Z heard the song. And at that time, Jay-Z wasn't just another rapper, he was becoming the face of East Coast hip-hop. He had momentum, money, and influence. He understood something Curtis didn't yet fully grasp. You don't always fight noise with noise. Sometimes you fight noise with control. Jay-Z responded on his 1999 album Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter. The response wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive, it was subtle. A calm line that reminded everyone who was really established and who was still trying to prove himself. In hip-hop circles, people immediately understood the message. This wasn't a diss meant to entertain fans, it was a quiet warning. Most artists would have backed off. But 50 Cent didn't see it that way. To him, the response meant success. It meant he had been noticed, and instead of slowing down, he doubled down. He kept talking. He kept pushing boundaries. He kept building a reputation as someone who could not be silenced. That's when the story stopped being about rap. Years later, 50 Cent claimed that his opportunities started disappearing. A commercial deal he was involved in was suddenly blocked. No clear explanation, no public statement, just gone. According to 50, the message
I wasn't in the ad
Right.
because of Jay-Z and them was putting it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they still harbor some energy towards me.
You think you were purposely left out of the ad?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think. I think that they were saying the NFL has some issues with me that I don't know what those issues are. Like, what is the issue? You see what I'm saying?
behind it was obvious. This wasn't random. This was influence being applied quietly. And then came the most controversial.
You see, yeah, I talked to the big homie. You saying to Jay, he was telling me, the white boy wouldn't do the truth without 50.
I hit the homie, the big homie Jay-Z, right? And I told him to come pull up on me. And he pulled up on me and he said, the white guy called for 50 Cent.
Controversial claim of all. 50 Cent suggested that Jay-Z may have sent people directly to his mansion, not to argue, not to threaten publicly, just to deliver one simple message: stop talking, no proof, no witnesses, no headlines, just pressure, the kind of pressure that doesn't need to be explained. There is no official confirmation that this meeting ever happened. And that's exactly why the story feels real to so many people, because real power doesn't leave evidence. It doesn't need to, it just needs results. After that point, 50 Cent says he began to understand the industry differently. This wasn't about talent, this wasn't about lyrics, this was about systems. Jay-Z wasn't trying to destroy him, he was showing him the limits of freedom inside the machine. As the years passed, Jay-Z's power only grew. He became president of Def Jam. He launched Roc Nation. He expanded into fashion, sports, and corporate business. He became more than a rapper. He became an institution, and according to 50 Cent, that kind of power shapes who gets access and who doesn't. Radio spins, award nominations, brand partnerships. None of these things are accidental.
And I'm like, that's when I start saying crazy stuff, because I look and I go, oh, that's your big homie, right? So you image yourself after a gay painter.
Okay.
Big homie want to look like a gay painter.
What are we talking about here?
We're talking about Basquiat. He wants to look like a gay painter.
And when you don't play by the rules, the doors don't slam in your face. They just quietly stop opening. But here's the twist that nobody expected. Instead of breaking 50 Cent, the pressure hardened him. He didn't chase approval. He didn't apologize. He didn't try to fit in. He built his own lane. G-Unit became a movement. And when Get Rich or Die Tryin' dropped, the industry had no choice but to listen. 50 Cent became too successful to block, too loud to ignore, and that made him even more dangerous. Because now, he had money, independence, and a platform, and he never forgot how the industry treated him years later. 50 Cent would openly joke about Jay-Z's business moves. He would laugh about deals and losses in interviews and online. He stayed loud, he stayed fearless, he stayed 50 Cent, and Jay-Z never responded, not once. No interviews, no diss tracks, no social media posts, just silence. And in the world of power, silence is not weakness, silence is control. So what was...
Look, when Jay signed his contract, the big one was with Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
When he signed that contract, the marriage contract, he got trophies. Not trophies. Those fucking trophies came rolling in, buddy. He started getting Grammys left and right, man. I mean, look, if you look at his career,
This really about ego, disrespect, or a lesson? 50 Cent represents disruption, chaos. A man who kicks the door down because he refuses to wait his turn. Jay-Z represents strategy, patience. A man who builds systems so strong that he never has to raise his voice, to minds, to pots, to kings. And that's why this story still matters. Because it shows that in hip-hop, the loudest voice isn't always the strongest. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one running everything. If you want more real hip-hop stories, real industry power plays, and the beefs nobody talks about, stay locked in, because the biggest battles are always the ones you never see. I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about respect. Because when Jay-Z first looked at 50 Cent, he didn't see just another rapper trying to make hits. And when 50 Cent looked at Jay-Z, he didn't see a king sitting on a throne, he saw a challenge. This was never a loud beef with diss tracks flying every week. There were no constant radio shots, no public screaming matches. But don't get it twisted, this rivalry quietly lasted for more than 25 years. One man played chess and built an empire step by step. The other played war and survived 9 bullets to take over the game. Jay-Z moved like a businessman before hip-hop even accepted businessmen. 50 Cent moved like a soldier who dared anyone to test him, and whenever these two were in the same space, the tension was real. So the real question isn't who had more money or better albums. The real question is who truly outplayed who. Jay-Z and 50 Cent came from similar environments, but their mentalities were completely different. Jay-Z was always focused on the long game, ownership, influence, legacy, and control. He understood that hip-hop was
I got to do a documentary on this ASAP, he posted.
Bigger than music, and that real power lived behind the scenes. 50 Cent, on the other hand, came up through pure survival. His mindset was
He says, I gotta do a documentary on this ASAP. And he posts a picture of Jay-Z lighting, a cigar. Damn, they got your man Jay in the files. I gotta do a doc on this. And then he posts another picture of Jay-Z, wearing this particular outfit. Basically somebody who looks like he is about to go down. So 50 Cent is ready to work with Netflix. And I think Netflix would be open arms to this conversation because they just racked up 50 million views on the first documentary.
Built on confrontation, dominance, and fearlessness. If someone challenged him, he didn't wait or calculate. He responded immediately. That difference alone made conflict unavoidable. Jay-Z moved like a CEO. 50 Cent moved like a general in enemy territory. Both were kings in their own way, and that's exactly why they could never fully coexist. In the early 2000s, hip-hop was at a turning point. Jay-Z was already established as one of the greatest. He had classic albums, mainstream success, and industry respect. Meanwhile, 50 Cent was rising fast with raw street energy, mixtape dominance. and an image that felt dangerous and real. At that stage, they weren't enemies. But they weren't allies either. There was an unspoken competition. In the air, they shared stages, shared space, and shared audiences. But the tension was noticeable to anyone paying attention. It was the kind of rivalry that didn't need words to be understood. Things became more obvious during the 2003 Rock the Mic tour, where both artists were performing. Jay-Z reportedly threw subtle disses during his performances. Nothing direct, nothing obvious, but enough to be felt. 50 Cent didn't wait for interviews or explanations. He reacted live on stage, making it clear that he wasn't going to play the silent role. That moment showed the world that something deeper was going on, even while standing on the same stage. There was friction underneath the professional smile.
What do you do to get thrown in that mix? What do you do, guys, to get thrown in that mix? To me, it's more so not what you have done, but more so, why is the betrayal starting now? Who is the target on his back? Why are they doing this to him? What is the sole purpose?
It wasn't chaos, but it definitely wasn't peace. What made this rivalry different from typical rap beefs was its nature. This wasn't violent like 50 Cent's war with Ja Rule. There were no endless diss tracks or street escalations. Instead, it existed in a gray area between competition and tolerance. Both men understood the stakes. Jay-Z knew the power of silence and positioning. 50 Cent knew the power of pressure and presence. They were battling without officially declaring war, and in many ways, that made it more dangerous. By the mid-2000s, the balance of power started shifting. In 2003, 50 Cent dropped Get Rich or Die Tryin', an album that completely took over the culture. Sales were massive. The streets loved it. The industry couldn't ignore it. At the same time, Jay-Z announced his retirement after releasing the Black Album. Too many fans. This felt symbolic. 50 Cent later claimed that his dominance played a role in Jay-Z stepping back. Whether that was true or not, the timing made the statement powerful. 50 was everywhere. G-Unit was unstoppable. And Jay-Z was suddenly out of the spotlight. But Jay-Z's retirement didn't last long. When he returned, he came back smarter, more focused, and more corporate than ever. While 50 Cent continued ruling the streets and charts, Jay-Z started positioning himself beyond music. Business deals, brand partnerships, and executive influence became his new weapons. The battlefield had changed, and Jay-Z knew exactly how to adapt. This wasn't about album sales anymore. This was about control. As years passed, their rivalry cooled on the surface but never truly disappeared. In interviews around 2011, 50 Cent summed it up perfectly when he said they were in the same business but not necessarily friends. That sentence said everything. There was no love, but there was mutual awareness. They respected each other's power while staying ready to challenge it if needed. Then in 2017, the tension resurfaced in a new way. Jay-Z released his album for 44, a mature, reflective project focused on growth, responsibility, and legacy. Instead of praising it, 50 Cent dismissed it as golf course music. He implied that Jay-Z had become too soft, too distant from the streets that built him. That comment hit hard because it wasn't just about music, it was about identity. 50 was questioning whether Jay-Z was still connected to the culture, or if he had completely moved into elite territory. Jay-Z didn't respond with insults or interviews. He didn't need to. His response was silent, strategic, and powerful. While 50 Cent was making jokes, Jay-Z was becoming hip-hop's first billionaire. The gap between them was no longer about bars or beef. It was about legacy versus relevance, empire versus influence, silence versus noise. In the end, this rivalry was never about who was better lyrically or who sold more records. It was about two philosophies colliding. One man believed power came from ownership and patience. The other believed power came from fearlessness and confrontation. Both won in their own ways. Both changed hip-hop forever. And even without a clear winner, their silent war shaped an entire era. If you really look closely, this wasn't a beef. It was a long chess match played in public, watched by millions, and understood by very few. And maybe that's what makes the Jay-Z versus 50 Cent rivalry one of the most fascinating stories in hip-hop history. Imagine spending your entire life building an image so strong that millions of people believe it without question, an image of power, money, fear, and street authority. Now imagine one man deciding to destroy that image slowly, not with bullets, not even with diss tracks, but with facts, paperwork, interviews, and relentless trolling. This is not just rap beef, this is psychological warfare. This is how 50 Cent turned hip-hop beef into a long-term strategy and proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon is embarrassment. 50 Cent has always understood something most rappers never did. Music is only part of the game. Control of the narrative is everything. When 50 chooses a target, he does not rush, he studies, waits, and then strikes where it hurts the most. One of the clearest examples of this was his infamous feud with Rick Ross, a battle that went far beyond music and into identity itself. Rick Ross carefully built himself as a modern drug kingpin. His deep voice, luxury lifestyle, and dark street stories made him larger than life. Fans believed he lived what he rapped. The industry treated him like a real boss, everything about Ross's image was calculated to demand respect. For a long time, it worked perfectly, then 50 Cent stepped in and changed everything. Instead of dropping a diss track, 50 exposed that Rick Ross had once worked as a correctional officer, a prison guard, a man paid by the system to watch inmates. This revelation directly contradicted the criminal image Ross had sold to the world. It was shocking, embarrassing, and impossible to ignore. 50 didn't let the story die. He reposted it, joked about it, and made sure the internet never forgot. Every time Ross tried to move forward, 50 pulled him back. But exposing Ross's past was only the beginning. 50 went further by interviewing Tia Kemp, the mother of Rick Ross's child. She publicly questioned Ross's authenticity and character. These interviews were not accidental, they were strategic. Each one added another crack to Ross's public image. This was no longer rap beef, this was character destruction. Then came the most controversial move of all. 50 leaked intimate content involving Lastonia Leviston, the mother of another one of Ross's children. This moment crossed a serious line. The internet went wild, but the legal consequences were devastating. Lastonia filed a lawsuit claiming severe emotional distress. The court took it seriously. A jury awarded her $5 million. That verdict hit hard. It played a major role in 50 Cent filing for bankruptcy. For most people, that would have been the end, silence, retreat, apologies. But 50 Cent is built differently. Even after legal trouble and financial pressure, he continued trolling Rick Ross. He mocked Ross's ticket sales, business ventures, and relevance. As of 2025, Rick Ross has made it clear that reconciliation will never happen. Some damage cannot be undone, but Rick Ross was not the only person to feel 50 Cent's wrath. One of his most dangerous and real beef started much closer to home, inside his own crew. The conflict between 50 Cent and the game began as an internal G-Unit issue. At first, it was tension behind the scenes, loyalty questions, ego clashes. But everything exploded in February 2005, on Hot 97, one of New York's biggest radio stations. 50 publicly announced that he was kicking the game out of G-Unit. The reason was simple in 50's mind: the game refused to take sides in 50's ongoing beefs with Jadakiss, Fat Joe, and Nas. In 50's world, neutrality meant betrayal. What happened next became hip-hop history. The game and his entourage went to the Hot 97 radio station to confront 50. What should have been words turned into chaos. Shots were fired in the streets of New York. At least one person was injured. This was no longer entertainment, this was real danger. Later, the game described the scene in detail. He said he was hiding behind trash trucks in the snow, wearing Converse sneakers with no grip, while bullets flew around him. That single incident permanently changed how Hot 97 handled interviews. Security was increased, the casual energy was gone. The line between music and violence had been crossed. Eventually, music industry executives stepped in. Jimmy Iovine reportedly paid both artists to hold a press conference and declare peace. The game later claimed he received $2 million just to stop dissing 50 Cent. But even money couldn't fully end the feud. The tension lasted for more than a decade. Years later, the game admitted that if he and 50 Cent had never beefed, they might have been billionaires by now. The two finally squashed their issues officially in 2016, long after the damage was done. Another legendary chapter in 50 Cent's career came in 2007 with a sales battle that changed hip-hop culture. 50 Cent's album Curtis went head-to-head with Kanye West's Graduation. The competition was intense. 50 was so confident that he publicly promised to retire from solo music if Kanye outsold him. The result shocked everyone. Kanye West's album sold around 957,000 copies in its first week. 50 Cent sold significantly less. Kanye won. The culture shifted. Hip-hop moved toward a new sound and a new image, yet despite his promise, 50 never retired. Instead, he adapted. He shifted his focus to business, television, and branding. Beyond music, 50 Cent has had beef with almost everyone. He clashed with Floyd Mayweather over boxing and business disagreements. He publicly feuded with his ex-girlfriend Vivica A. Fox after their breakup. He even had a very public and painful conflict with his own son, Marquise Jackson. These moments showed that 50 does not separate personal life from public life. everything becomes part of the narrative. One of his strangest feuds was with Oprah Winfrey. For years, 50 trolled her online, even naming his pets after Oprah and Gayle King. It seemed random, but it fit his pattern. No one was untouchable. If 50 felt ignored or disrespected, he responded loudly, even in late 2025. 50 Cent showed he hasn't slowed down. He ignited new conflicts with Jim Jones, Fabulous, Mano, and Dave East after they criticized his documentary work on a podcast. Instead of ignoring the comments, 50 responded publicly, proving once again that he thrives on confrontation. At this point, it's clear that 50 Cent's legacy is not just about music, it's about power, influence, and control. He mastered the art of turning attention into currency. He showed the world that beef can be strategic, that trolling can be profitable, and that image can be more dangerous than any weapon. Love him or hate him, one thing is undeniable: when 50 Cent enters a conflict, it rarely ends clean. Careers change, images collapse, and the internet never forgets. If hip-hop is a battlefield, then 50 Cent isn't just a soldier, he's the general who rewrote the rules of war.